How does it feel to hear that your body was not designed for aesthetics? It doesn't care if you lose the last 10 pounds and keep it off, if you can fit back into your pre-pregnancy jeans, or if you even feel confident in your body at all. To many of us, this might feel pretty disappointing, because who hasn't wanted to change or tweak something about their body before? I once knew a 12-year-old girl who thought the size of her body was such a problem that she would spend all of her time looking at pictures of women in the media who were thin and beautiful, and she told herself this story that surely because they've got the looks and the body that they also must have the perfect life. So she made it her mission to shrink, and everything she did centered around how she could eat less and move more. And unfortunately, her life motto became, "Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels." But when she would inevitably split pizza with her family, she would feel so guilty that the next day she would skip after-school hangouts with her friends to exercise alone in her living room. She wanted the world to think she was disciplined, but in reality, she was just terrified of seeing the scale go up. But in her all-consuming pursuit to get smaller, do you know what actually shrunk? Her world. Because you can't live a full life on an empty stomach. That 12-year-old girl was me, and maybe she was you too, or some version of her, struggling with food and body, and if she wasn't you, maybe you know her. Because in a world with both the relentless pressure to be thin and junk food at every turn and corner, many of us were not taught how to properly nourish our bodies, only how to control them through dieting. Over 45 million Americans go on a diet every single year, but what I've seen in my practice as a registered dietitian are the people who go on diets over and over again are the most anxious and insecure in their bodies. They're following all the rules and doing the things they're supposed to, like detoxing after indulgent weekends, skipping meals to save calories for later, yet what they don't know is that many of these normalized eating behaviors actually mimic the early stages of disordered eating. And here's why that's interesting. Many studies have shown that disordered eating and chronic food restriction leads to an impaired sense of interoception. Interoception is our body's ability to be able to detect signals like hunger, fullness, pain, temperature, and heartbeat. And then we can take those signals and integrate them into how we feel and how we act. So somebody who has been cycling for years or even decades through diets may begin to distrust that feeling of hunger. Or maybe they can't recognize when they feel full, and over time that can lead to poor body image and eating behaviors that feel chaotic and out of control, not necessarily because this person lacks willpower or discipline, but because their internal senses have just been overridden. And if dieting is proven to disconnect us from our physical selves, can it also disconnect us from our spiritual selves? Can it pull us farther away from who we are, our intuition, or even God? Because if you've ever dieted, you know how much space it takes up in your brain. It is all-consuming, and it forces you to choose between guilt and joy, anxiety and peace, restriction and connection. And if you're anything like me, dieting makes your life rather dull. A lot of the memories I have when I was caught in the midst of disordered eating play back in my brain in black and white. Like this one time, I went to a Super Bowl party, and if you asked me to tell you about the game, I couldn't. I had just moved to a brand new city, thousands of miles from home, and in an effort to make friends, I had joined an adult kickball league, of all things. And one of the guys on the team had us over for the game, and there I was, in this living room, surrounded by people laughing and cheering and playing drinking games. But all I could think about was the buffalo chicken dip and how good it looked, but how bad I would be if I ate it. And maybe you've had this experience where you're somewhere where you're supposed to be having fun, or maybe you're supposed to be focused, but all you can think about is food. It's like a game of tug of war in your brain. At that party, I successfully avoided the buffalo chicken dip. I just ate the celery that comes on the side, pretending like that was enough. But do you know what I did when I got home? That's right, I went straight to the pantry and I binged an entire bag of stale cookies. And then I felt like such a failure. I felt like an imposter. What kind of dietitian can't control herself around food? So I did what I always did, and I skipped breakfast the next day and hid myself from the world. That was the story of my life, but what was different about this experience was that a few days later, when I scratched and crawled my way out of my shame hole to the surface, I started a new practice that I recommend to anyone who's looking to get to know themselves better. It's called Morning Pages by author Julia Cameron, and it's where you journal your stream of consciousness the beginning of your day for 3 pages, and you just let whatever comes out come out. And that day I was journaling about what I wanted my life to look like. And in short, what I was describing was full of joy and happiness and peace. But how I'd been living for almost a decade was anything but that. It should have been. I was surrounded by people who loved me and cared about me. I had great opportunities. I loved my job, but I felt depleted. I felt anxious, insecure. I felt tired of judging myself for everything that I ate or how my skin folded over my jeans when I sat down. I was tired of eating plain, non-fat Greek yogurt every morning for breakfast just because it's high protein and low calorie. Have you ever had plain, non-fat Greek yogurt? It tastes like sour cream. It's disgusting. But you know what I was really tired of? I was tired of trying to be perfect all the time. Have the perfect body, have the perfect diet, because it wasn't working. The goalpost just kept moving farther away, and if anything, it just made me dislike myself more. So I decided, I'm done. I'm done following other people's rules. I'm done dieting. Full stop. And here's some information that really helped, and maybe it will help you too if you want to stop dieting. Remember in the beginning when we talked about how your body was not designed for aesthetics? That's because it's designed for survival, right? Of course. And to survive, it needs a few non-negotiables. Oxygen, water, and food, because food is energy. And energy is everything. Energy is how you're able to get up, move throughout the day, get stuff done. Energy is how you're able to think and problem solve. Did you know your brain is only 2% of your body weight, yet it uses about 20% of your total calorie expenditure throughout the day? That means even if you sleep through your workout class or go sit at a desk all day, you still need energy from food, because if you don't give your body food, it's not going to ask you very nicely. You'll begin to experience hunger, and the first sign of hunger might surprise you. It's actually having thoughts about food. This is nothing to feel bad or guilty about, even if it's at the wrong time according to your diet. It simply means it's time to start thinking about what you want to nourish your body with. Then you'll experience an empty pit in your stomach, maybe some growling. You may begin to experience food cravings, and at this point, you're not going to crave things like carrots and hummus. You're going to crave sugar, fast food. And if you continue to ignore hunger, you may begin to experience brain fog, irritability, maybe a headache, and just an overall lack of motivation to do anything. Even my patients who are treating their obesity or type 2 diabetes with GLP-1 medications can experience these later signs of hunger. They're very distracting, and if you don't answer the call of hunger in time, the next thing you know, you might find yourself at the bottom of a bag of stale cookies, wondering, what did I just do? But here's the reframe. That's not a failure. You're not a failure. That's just survival. That's just your body overriding your misinformed but well-intentioned attempts to restrict by sending you impossible to ignore signals to go consume large amounts of quick energy. That's amazing. That's your body keeping you alive. So yo-yo dieters, we don't need more self-restraint. Maybe we need more self-understanding. And instead of trying to punish ourselves out of this desperation to be thin, We must learn to care for our bodies the same way they've always been trying to care for us. So where do we start? Well, this might feel a little scary, but it starts with this. When you feel hungry, eat. Or better yet, fuel. Because fueling encourages you to go seek out food that actually has some nutrition, protein, fiber, healthy fats, fruits, vegetables. Sounds pretty simple, right? Maybe even obvious. Now that I'm a mom, it feels obvious. Because if my son was hungry, of course I'm going to feed him. Withholding food from him would be cruel, but for so many years, the idea of just eat when you're hungry scared me. Because I didn't trust myself not to eat the entire pantry, and I know so many people feel the same way in secret. But when you nourish your body with enough healthy food, that doesn't happen. The food noise, it turns down because your basic needs have been met, and then that's where the magic can happen. That's when you can throw yourself into creative hobbies and house projects. You can connect deeply with the person across from you. Maybe you'll find the energy to start a project you've always dreamed of or have just been putting off for so long because you never really felt like it. And if you're anything like me, once you start fueling your body, your life will begin to play in color. Nourishing your body, it's not just about physical health. It's about mental clarity, emotional resilience, and being able to do the things that light you up. The next time you feel like suppressing your appetite with black coffee, ask yourself, what could I accomplish today if I chose to fuel my body instead of restrict it? Could you come home with enthusiasm, leash up the dog, grab the family, go for a walk, laugh, swap stories about the day? Enjoy the simple moments, because isn't that what life's all about, the simple moments? Could you show up to work focused and clear, ready to make meaningful change in your organization, in your community, in the world? Could you look back at core memories like beach trips and birthday parties, not with the guilt about what you ate, but with the joy of how fully you lived? Because you can't live a full life on an empty stomach. If you're ready, here's a challenge. It's 3 days, just 3 steps. Step 1 is to reconnect with yourself. Try that morning pages journaling activity, but here's a prompt to get you started. Ask yourself, what could I accomplish today? And how could I feel doing it if I chose to fuel? Even if it's just the mundane, could you show up emotionally grounded, present, peaceful, overjoyed, confident? Step 2 is to reconnect with your body. Begin to listen to those early signs of hunger and respond. Don't overthink it. This is about reconnecting with your hunger cues. And step 3, reconnect with your life. Reconnect with what matters, because when you're fully fueled, you can do that. You'll figure out what that is. This challenge is not about losing 10 pounds as quickly as possible. It's about sharpening that interoceptive sense that perhaps has been dulled after years or even decades of dieting. It's about thinking what you can eat more of rather than what you should eat less of, so that you can get more out of life. Because you only get one life, and you only get one body, so why spend all of your time trying to shrink it when instead you could soak up every beautiful, vibrant moment that life has to offer? Whether you're like that 12-year-old girl struggling with food and body, or just somebody who wants to show up to life a little bit more focused and clear, it's never too late. It's never too late to start thinking about how to fuel. Because you don't just get your energy back, you get your appetite for life back. And nothing, not even skinny, tastes as good as that. Thank you.